Humera, thank you so much. So that picture which you posted today, which Abdurrahman kindly gifted you, it really struck a chord with me. Tell me, what does it mean to you?
Well, when I looked it up, because of course I'm not very proficient in Urdu or anything like that.
Oh, you don't say.
Yeah, and so I'm a second generation migrant. So when I looked it up, I thought, wow, that's a really fantastic explanation of it. Because initially when I saw it, I looked at it very one-dimensionally.
So what does it say?
It says, between love and revolution, there's no difference. And when I looked at the definition about the explanation of love, first of all, and that they're interconnected, that revolution rooted in love becomes something different than just revolution for the sake of it. And I think after you said on Facebook that that would be a really good conversation starter, and I thought, yeah, you're right. Actually, it's a good conversation starter for a lot of things. And I think one of the things that we, certainly if you're a sort of migrant, person of color, woman, whatever, in a sort of diaspora context, everything is very reactionary. And in a sense, if the work that I've done over the years to challenge discrimination or injustice, whatever, I've always described it as being out of anger, right?
Oh,
that I've been angry about things. So when the anger is the motivation to put things right. But so this saying made me look at that differently, is that when you actually see activism or revolution as, or challenging injustice, whatever you want to call it, as an act of love, right, is because you love to make things better, and you love the idea of humanity, and you love the things that are good. And when you see that not being valued and respected and dismissed and everything, it's from love that wants to create the change. And that really, only today, that I thought about it a little bit differently. And I thought, yes, I realized over a period of time that that's what I was getting wrong, that I've been angry for too long. And I tried very hard, because I'm not posting so much on social media as I used to once upon a time. I still post every so often angry things or whatever, but I'm trying to avoid it, because I have to make a decision, I feel, about just adding to the noise or trying to sort of say something which maybe makes us think a little bit differently. I don't always succeed, but that's the thinking behind it, right? So, I mean, of course, for some people more than others, being angry is the place to start, right?
I mean, there's a lot for us to be angry about.
Yes. And when you're in the eye of the storm of anger, you can't always see beyond it. And which is okay, that's a moment. But what we need more of is the opportunity to unpack the anger, re-look at our ability to change things. And sometimes if we step back from the anger and address it in a more sort of rational kind of future-orientated kind of way, actually what you do is you make a massive jump into creating the sort of change we really need. And I really asked myself, from a Muslim point of view, because one of my motivating features always has been, because people always say, Islam has all the answers. You go there, it's everything. And after 40 years in this field, there are not many answers, really. There are not many people or institutions or whatever really creating the change. There's a lot of much more written stuff, certainly in English, than there ever was before. But it's so difficult to access it. It's often very dense, and it's theoretical. It's about things in the 13th, 12th century, 15th century. And I'm thinking, okay, what does that mean for me? I'm not living in that time. And I don't want to recreate that time. I don't even want to recreate the time of the Prophet, because we're not asked to do that.
No,
so therefore, what does everything mean for us now? and there's not much coming, not a lot. There are lots of people doing great stuff. And of course, everybody creates that little, drop of change around them, the sort of impact of the drop of change. But we all need that bigger picture. I mean, at the moment, I think certainly since COVID and certainly with all these wars and everything, I just don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I used to always believe in something. I used to always believe that this is the way to change things, or this is the thing that you do, and this. I'm not sure any longer. And I'm in that state at the moment. I'm not sure.
And sometimes it's maybe good not to be sure.
Yes. And it's not easy to sit in that space of uncertainty. Possibly as Muslims, we're brought up culturally to have a belief in certainty.
Yes.
Right? That everything is either written or everything's predestined. And when it isn't and you're not sure, it's sort of, you unravel a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is the universe telling me? What am I, actually, is it actually telling me just to step back and do nothing for now? Which feels very difficult when you've been active in the community for a long time.
Okay. So you said active in the community for a long time, and we haven't really introduced you. I'm sure a lot of people watching this will know you really, really well, but there will be hopefully new people listening and watching. So how would you like to introduce yourself?
I never know. I don't know. I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. Even now,
I'm still trying to figure that out.
I really don't know how to explain myself, because people value things like academic credentials or some kind of professional qualification. And I don't really. I've done stuff. I've sort of gone into local authorities. I've gone into equal opportunities, anti-racism, but it's not the thing that I put it in the front of what I do. And my main sense of what I feel I do is trying to create some change and things in the community. I mean, I don't know what you call that.
Change maker?
Change maker, yeah. I think somebody who's...
a leader?
I don't know if I'm a leader. I've been challenged recently on what a definition of a leader is, because what I've come to realize is that a leader has a vision for a strategic, systematic change. And I think the work I've been involved in, it's had a vision with very simple nuggets of certainly Islamic thoughts and ideas, simple ones. It motivated us to do the work that we've done. But we went spontaneously, very organically. We didn't have a plan to say where were we going to be from 5 years, 10 years, 50 years or whatever. And it doesn't mean to say there's not been benefit, but I think if we stopped tomorrow, everything would stop. So there's not, we're trying at the moment to encourage a generation to continue, the younger generation.
So where did it all start? Just because I think it's an interesting story and maybe we don't tell enough about our backstories.
Well, it started off for me personally.
For you.
Because I
18-year-old Humera?
Not 18, no, 25.
Oh.
Yeah. When I was younger, I wasn't interested in religion.
Okay.
From the age of 18 to 25, it's not a secret.
Yeah.
I set up, I didn't see myself as Muslim because I didn't see the point of it. Because the way our elders would explain it, they would say this is what you have to do as religion, but nobody would actually do it. And nobody could explain. And then you're growing up in the society and there's things that you want answers for. Our elders didn't have any answers for that. And then everything was about back home and everything was something that I couldn't connect to.
Yeah.
With hindsight, I understand it now, why that was. So I have no ill feelings about anything about it. But it created lots of gaps. And then, of course, the issue of identity, who are you? I've always grown up in cosmopolitan, diverse London. So engaging with sort of diverse communities has been my norm. And so when you're meeting with other people, you like things about it. I mean, one of the things I can say, one of the first things I felt, particularly when I went to university, and I went to university late, is that one of the motivating things, let's say, certainly about, let's say, white or English culture, is that parents have these conversations with their kids and say, what's your opinion?
Yeah.
Right? And yes, okay, if you decide not to go to this profession or that profession, you can do this and you can do that, that's fine. And that's something that we growing up, that wasn't ever an option, to have an opinion, to have a choice, and to have that kind of thing. So I admired that, I aspired towards it. But then eventually, over a period of time, when I was engaged in that world, I sort of felt, actually, they may have certain things, but they lack other things. And I may lack certain things, but I have other things.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time, with lots of internal dilemmas and everything, to realize that actually coming back. And I don't think I would have necessarily come back to Islam if I didn't actually have something that if I didn't have a light bulb moment.
Yeah.
Right? I could quite easily at that point in my life chosen anything else.
So what was that light bulb moment?
It's actually, I always quote this, it's my, in many of the arguments with my sister,
Yeah.
I used to say the usual thing, you know, there's a God, you know, why is there all these problems in the world and conflicts and wars and all that kind of stuff? And she gave the explanation, which I still hold on to today, is that, you know, if you look at the planet and if you look at the resources the planet has, the whole planet has the ability to sustain itself, right? So if human beings are living, if they worked within the parameters of respecting the planet, we could all still live, even with the population now. So you can't blame God for what we as human beings have made a mess of, right?
Yeah.
So that was the light bulb moment where I thought, this is true. Where's the point where we as human beings take responsibility for the mess we've made? Why do we keep blaming God for it? We were given a great planet, opportunities and everything. We could have done it better, but we didn't. So this is the question that we have to ask ourselves.
Okay. And was that the kind of the motivation for your activism, how you started?
Yes, I think so. Is that I felt that with these simple concepts, and the first concept is of justice, like the verse in the Quran says, stand up for justice,
Yes.
even if against yourself and your parents. That's a really powerful ayah when you're brought up in cultures where you can't say off to your parents and you can't stand up against your leaders or your, whatever. It's a really powerful thing to hold on to when you then have the confidence to say, I have a voice. Because God has said in the Quran, if you see an injustice, stand up against it, right? So that was a powerful motivating force to say, to not be afraid, actually. When we first set up An-Nisa Society, which basically is the organization that a group of us as women set up in 1985.
So An-Nisa meaning?
The women, yeah. So we set up this organization because we recognized the sort of social ills in our communities. We wanted to create change, right? And so when we set up An-Nisa, 40 years ago this year is 40 years since we set up.
40th anniversary.
It's our 40th anniversary.
We're going to have a party.
Yes, we should. Hopefully we will.
Yeah.
So to understand what the situation was like for Muslim women 40 years ago,
yes.
you can't imagine.
I came to live in England 43 years ago.
Yeah, so you know something about that.
Yes.
So you couldn't do anything. In Islamic circles, you had to look and be a certain way.
Yeah.
You weren't in the forefront. You always were behind screens, and you weren't allowed to ask questions unless you wrote it on paper. And anything you said wasn't important, right? There wasn't any women in public arenas or anything like that. So it was a very difficult context in which to start doing things. But I think what often people get wrong about changing these very sort of male-centric, whatever you want to call them, types of institutions, is that there is a way to deal with it. And one thing I've learned the hard way, actually, maybe, a little while ago now, I learned this. In fact, through my late husband's wisdom, right? He said, if you're going to argue with a man in the way that men argue, the men will respond to you like a man.
Cool.
Right?
That's interesting.
And so therefore, basically therefore that's why often it becomes conflict. And so therefore, really, what I've understood by that, to disarm a man, you have to not be feminine and sweet or anything, is that, you can stand back a little bit and say, okay, that's interesting. Why do you think that? Right? So therefore, as a woman, you become a bit more empowered because you're not angry, you're not reacting, you're not responding to their often chauvinistic viewpoints. And I learned to laugh. I didn't find it acceptable if people made chauvinistic jokes. I said, do you really believe that? And say, ha, 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 right? Yeah. Because, in a sense, what they're often doing is trying to wind you up, right?
Yeah.
And we take the bait. So therefore, by not taking the bait, you disarm it, right? So I learned a lot of things over the years because I was involved in a lot of things, which meant that I feel now, when it comes to engaging with Muslim men as a woman, I feel more confident about it. I don't feel threatened in any way. I feel I can give my opinion regardless of who I'm speaking to. But that's taken time, and these things don't happen overnight. And younger generation of women and men have to realize these things you have to work at, you have to understand it.
Yeah.
And don't think just because you suddenly have got a degree in something or suddenly had a light bulb moment, that because you have that light bulb moment, everything is going to change, right? The critical thing is that you've changed, right?
Back to that love and revolution.
That's exactly, that you've had a moment of empowerment, of something that gives you some sort of fulfillment, to not be put down by other people, right? Because that's what often happens, is that you feel inferior. I often felt inferior for lots of reasons. Either people had much more education than me, or they're much more Quran than me, or much more this and there's so many things that people push forward a lot and have as a criteria for success, which makes many of us feel, well, I really can't engage with that if I don't know the Arabic. I really can't engage with that if I haven't read 100 books, and I can't engage with this, So, so it's how do you balance all of these things? I mean, in a sense, you do need to know the Arabic. You do need to read the books. You do need to know those things.
A little bit. Also,
Yeah.
But also there are other people who know it.
Yes.
You can actually, it's not just you on your own.
Yeah.
There's a community of us.
Yes.
And that's what An-Nisa Society was.
Yeah, exactly. So
who came to An-Nisa Society to start with? I'm really interested because I think we don't learn enough about the history of Muslim activism and community work.
Yes.
It's too disparate. It hasn't been recorded.
I think it happened at a time when it needed to happen. We were the second generation. Our parent generation didn't understand the system. They they worked and whatever. We had grown up in the system. We'd been educated here. We'd either gone to higher education or a profession or something or another. And then we could see, we had been able to step back enough after whatever experiences that we'd had up to that moment. And I was one of the younger people at that time. So I was 25 at that time. To say, okay, something needs to be done. We know all of this, but let's start again. Something needs to be done. So right from the beginning, the objective of An-Nisa Society was to build community. And what we said is that it's not possible as a women's organization, certainly then and even now, to get funding or recognition from our Muslim funders or institutions, right? And we said we are citizens, we're taxpayers. The way that Britain works, it provides services which are supposed to be free of discrimination and culturally appropriate and everything. This is the law, right? This is what the system is. And this is taxpayers' money, of which Muslims are also taxpayers.
Absolutely.
In the system. And we are not getting something special if we engage with the system to say, look, this is how you could do this better, because some of it's not working right now. Right, so that's what we did. So we were very much engaged in with local authorities, and that's where we managed to get some funding after a lot of work, particularly from Khalida, who's the director.
That's your sister.
That's my sister, and so she's worked very hard to talk about faith-based communities to service providers and how to support faith-based communities with resources and this. So we got a certain amount of funding, project funding, like we set up the first accredited Islamic counselling course in the late 90s. We did a series of books on Islamic sexual health from a Islamic perspective.
Oh, that's amazing.
We did work on Muslim fatherhood in the early 2000s, and a few other bits and bobs like that, a lot of work with young people. And these were all publicly funded work that we did. And then after 9/11 and 7/7, we got involved in the work that was being done with government after the King's Cross bombings, which was actually quite soul-destroying, really.
Oh, was it?
Because what happened is that we became completely distracted by Prevent. And there were some good opportunities at the beginning of it all. And then what happened is it ended up becoming representational politics.
Yes.
That the people who were engaging, who were they, what were they reflecting this? And Muslims got obsessed with being represented rather than addressing what the issues are.
Yeah.
And usually what happened, most people came uninformed of what they were going to put on the table and what they could negotiate with government, right? For the benefit of the community, not for their own personal thing. So I did a lot of that. We as An-Nisa did a lot of that. And then eventually I said, I can't do this any longer, because the result was the work we were doing on the ground was being affected by it, right? So we couldn't focus on that. And because we didn't take Prevent money, we then lost a lot of funding. And the offices that we had at one point, we had to let them go because the Muslim businessman who was paying for it, the offices, he wasn't able to do that because of Prevent and all that kind of stuff. Money was being stopped from being given. So we didn't then have funding to do anything, but we kept going. The school that we run on Sundays also has 40th anniversary coming up, and we just, because we're committed to the work, we just do it voluntarily, and we do it the best. All the people who are involved are great people. They
So
go.
it's completely voluntary.
We some not totally voluntary, but it's managed at a voluntary level, and everybody goes way beyond the call of duty
of course,
to run the school. And the school in particular, which is the thing that we've managed to keep going without stopping, is that we see now younger generations who've been graduates of the school, and they're doing great stuff in the world, and we feel really proud about that. And then they come back and give to the school. We have some former students who are teachers. They're now helping with managing of the school.
Amazing.
And there's a sort of culture that the school has engendered, kind of thing, because the premise of the school is that we are non-denominational. We don't hothouse children into just a lot of information. And it's a homeschool partnership, and it's multicultural, and also, of course, new Muslim cultures. So it is about giving families a place to grow.
I like that.
Because not everybody is experts, right? And one thing I can say from over these years of experience, most Muslim parents are super anxious about doing the right thing, right? And even doing something.
I think most parents seem to be super
over, especially about religion, right?
Yeah.
Because when it comes to other things, mass English, everything, it makes sense. They know how to do that.
Yeah.
When it comes to religion, people are paranoid.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many times I have to say to people, don't worry. It's okay. You don't have to do this. You don't just do this.
Yeah.
Don't overextend yourself. As long as you're not being inconsistent and creating contradictions for your children, they'll be all right. Don't worry about it. From the age of 15 to 25, they're going to give you a headache, but then they'll become your friends.
We've done that.
Yeah, we've done that. So
and that children did it to us.
Yeah. So it's part of the course, right?
Absolutely.
So, but the way religion is often taught is so prescriptive, right? That if it doesn't look like this, if it doesn't feel like this, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
There are many people trying to change this. I know that. But this is our little contribution towards that.
And that's what you've been doing for the past 40 years.
Yeah.
So you said something interesting. You talked about briefly, just mentioned new cultures, new Muslim cultures. So how have you seen the community, the Muslim community, change over the past 40 years? And what does it mean, really?
it's changed quite dramatically, although the general public
That's the thing, the general public doesn't see it.
idea of the Muslim community is very Indian subcontinent,
Yeah.
right? Increasingly, Arabs are being included in that, but generally, when policies and when Muslims are presented in the media or whatever, it's usually in this Indian subcontinent framework. But it's been changing dramatically for many years now.
I mean, census-wise, the Pakistani community is still the largest minority.
Of course, they're the largest minority.
37% or
yeah, but still 37%
I think it was
is
37 10 years ago. I'm not sure the most recent one.
but you see, if you look within those Pakistani communities, many of them marry outside of their cultures.
Ah, yes.
So therefore, there's a lot of change happening in all the cultural groups.
Yeah.
There you have the Muslim cultures who stay within their cultures, but more and more are marrying outside or making different choices and things. So that doesn't really get taken on board in sort of stats or statistics very well, because in London you just have to look around and you see that Muslims are everywhere. The culture is represented everywhere through food or even fashion or style of homes and you know the ceramics or whatever. And the younger generation in particular, because these are also social media generation, they operate beyond boundaries, beyond nation states, beyond cultural boundaries. They consume a similar kind of culture and they are creating culture. They're creating a culture which they can identify with globally, not just locally. So, and then let's say with my children's generation, my son is 35, my daughter's 30, and I see a lot of their friends. Most of them are either products of mixed cultural marriages, or they are in a mixed cultural context. Or those even who stay within their culture are doing different things. They're not doing what their parents were doing. So things are changing. And I do believe we need to still respect and value and understand and know our cultures of origin, languages, cuisines. That's all really important. It's important to young people.
Yeah.
But it's not so much that it's not so exclusive now that I personally, as somebody of Pakistani heritage, consume all of the Muslim cultures. I even consume non-Muslim cultures that I feel is compatible and that I enjoy, right? So therefore, we're not, as long as you respect those cultures, and not sort of appropriate it in a not in a good way, is that's okay. So, and I think what the younger people, they're looking for direction and they're not getting it. And increasingly, I think, first of all, the phenomena that Muslims are really not talking about very much is that many are leaving, right? Because leaving the faith, right?
Okay.
And I think they're not leaving the faith because of any...
Is it the faith that left them, maybe?
Yes. They've got nowhere to go.
By the faith, I don't mean the faith, but I mean those who are prepared.
Yeah, the faithful have left them, right? The faithful are not really interested. They don't understand them because the criteria to be faithful is so rigid, stringent.
Yes.
And that people feel, well, you know, I can't do that, right? And even those who live a stringent life put great burdens on themselves and they struggle with it, right? And their children then struggle with it. So a younger generation are actually, I find, are actually very concerned about humanity, very concerned about changing things for the good. They don't want to be restricted by cultural norms of the past, right? The restrictive cultural norms, let's say, rather than the ones that are good. And they're creating something new. And those who leave, we have to give them opportunities to come back. And I don't think we're the only faith who are concerned about. All faiths are concerned about their youngsters leaving. But I think what other faiths do a lot better, which that I've seen, is that the avenues for return to further explore and to grow are very few in our community. They have far more. They understand that maybe some of their youngsters are arty or academic or philosophical or sporty or whatever, and there's projects or initiatives that is open to people who want to explore, right?
I'm thinking back to the love and revolution and transformation.
Yeah.
Where is that space for love in our practice in terms of as community practice?
Yeah.
As Muslims?
Yeah. Well, if you go back to, let's say, parenting, right? because that's where a lot
Yeah.
of things start and end, is that we come from cultures, many of us, where it's not that love isn't there, but love is unexpressed, and it's more about duty.
Can I take you to a step before
Yeah.
parenting?
Okay.
Marriage. I remember a very dear friend. She'd probably be watching this when we post it. And she invited me to her wedding many years ago. And she said, could you make a speech at my wedding? But don't mention love. Whatever you do,
Gosh.
Pakistanis don't like to,
It's true. It's
to
true.
hear the word love. And guess what I mentioned? Because I quoted the Quran.
Right.
So can we go back to marriage? Where do you think,
Yeah.
where are we putting marriage? Where are we putting love and young people getting together, particularly from our different communities?
Well, I have this sort of idea when I do events on marriage, is I call it the 80-20 rule, right? Is that when you marry, and there's benefits of marrying with what you already know, within your culture, within your language, within your, there's benefits in that for sure. But when you marry within that, 80% is already known of all the things that may make up your everyday life. And all you have to work at is 20% of the relationship where love grows, right? Nowadays, more and more, when young people meet, they meet in that 20% zone where they really get on with each other. They are super compatible, but they're doing this at university, or they're working at friends or Islamic activity or something, but they really align with each other, which in whatever world that they've met each other. But they don't have the conversation about the 80% of who they are when they're at home.
Yeah.
And so therefore, often that people can get married, knowing, having that great love for each other. But what can affect it is once you start arranging the wedding, and then after the marriage, when you haven't worked it through enough, is that you see that there's a lot of things that you don't know about each other.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that's not solvable. You can solve it, but if you don't recognize it, you don't realize that you have to work at it.
Okay.
So therefore, there's a lot of mismatch happening, and a younger generation, I suppose our generation was like that a little bit. You believe in the power of love, and love conquers all, and go into marriage with that kind of viewpoint. I don't know if I any longer believe in love in that way, right?
Yeah, romantic love.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's so ubiquitous with the Disney films. And my daughter Zainab always used to blame Disney because it's always the princess finds Prince Charming and they live happily ever after. And life isn't like this.
No.
So she was like, I blame Disney for all of these ideas. But increasingly popular culture everywhere promotes this kind of romantic
unrealistic
idea.
kind of thing.
Whether it's boy meet girls or girl meet girl, whatever it is, there is this, they work, as you said, in the 20% bit.
And then what they want is they want the trophy wedding ceremony. Right? They want this amazing where all the emotions are placed on getting it right for the wedding and not focusing on getting it right for the marriage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then great debts are formed, and this and a wedding ceremony. Unless if you're going to make a textbook wedding ceremony with all these favors and this that, and the other, I'm not saying don't have your dream wedding, but if that's what your only focus is, right? What are you making then? What does I always explain weddings like storytelling. Your wedding, certainly these days, tells a story about you, tells a story about the couple, about the families. So what message do you want to give to people, your witnesses who are there, about yourselves and what you wish for your future?
Have you got a side hustle as a wedding planner?
No way, I don't want to do that. It's really too difficult. And,
we've got free wedding advice here, free wedding planning advice.
So, people need to think about these things and they don't. Right, and I'm a great believer in marriage contracts, and
but
people are reluctant.
What are we going to be doing in this relationship?
So have the conversation
absolutely.
with each other about things that will come up later.
Yeah,
right. But this is something. It's not said in our country because we rely on the 80%. Those of us who draw from our cultures, we assume that we know everything. The 80% of what is understood.
Yeah, yeah.
Even religiously, the stuff that is understood, we don't think that we have to discuss it and understand it in our current context.
So one of the things in the Quran that describes the relationship between two people in a marital, in a kind of partnership, that kind of soul partnership, I call it as well, is that it says Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put between you mawadda wa rahma. And it's difficult to explain the word mawadda because it's, also it's not just love, it is a manifestation, a physical, an active manifestation of love. So it's really actions that show love. That's mawadda. So mawadda is love in action, and rahma is mercy. And I don't know how much even our young people, or even us, no one ever taught me that. No one ever, when I got married, no one mentioned mawadda wa rahma. And I don't know to what extent we are failing in promoting that, not just for young Muslim people, but generally for young people. It's such, to me, it seems such a beautiful, mawadda wa rahma, let's call it love, affectionate love and mercy. And people misunderstand mercy. What do you understand by it?
Well, it's not sort of a patronizing kind of, I feel sorry for you, so I'll be merciful.
Absolutely.
But it's a sort of, because when you're married, you see people vulnerable. You're vulnerable in a marriage, right?
Yes.
I think like nothing else, right?
Absolutely.
I think in Middlemarch, George Eliot's Middlemarch, there's a point where Dorothea says there's something sort of, I'm paraphrasing the word, cruelly intimate about marriage, right?
Ooh, cruelly intimate.
But it's those words to that effect. And at one level, if you don't have that compassion and mercy, if you don't recognize the vulnerability in the other person, you can really just railroad through their emotions and their feelings, and that's where problems start. It's like, let's say after childbirth, for example, a woman is really super vulnerable at that time. If a man doesn't show, the husband doesn't show mercy and compassion and understanding of maybe hormonal change, or physical change, the insecurity that she's feeling within herself because now everything's changed, you need to have mercy for that. You need to be sensitive and aware and, in a sense, compensate and give more love, right? Without expecting something back. Right? Often what it is, it's a two-way transaction.
Transaction.
And I think for me, love is something that, it's shared, it's together, but you can sometimes do things for the other without expecting something back. Because what the person gives back is not necessarily the same thing. And I've had lots of conversations with women when they think, well, I've done this, I do this, I do that. I said, but maybe he's doing something else for you. If you're going to judge everything by what you think you've done for him, you're going to miss what he's doing for you, which might be different. Right? So you have to be aware and you have to realize those things.
And you were talking originally, so I kind of went back to the marriage, about parenthood and love and revolution, back to that, our theme, love and revolution and parenting.
Well, I suppose there's all a connection with that,
Absolutely.
in a sense, because when you think about marriage, two totally individual people who have had completely different upbringings, their way of thinking and everything comes together, and then you have to find a way to live with each other. It's quite revolutionary, really, right? So how do you negotiate this? I mean, either you do many of the traditional ways, it's just, there's a passive acceptance that women do that, men do this, this is like that, that's like that. Women tend to be more in the traditional sense, because I remember my mum's generation being like this, that where, are more likely to say, okay, leave it, let the men get away with stuff. And, so you either accept these cultural norms and you don't have any expectations yourself, and it can work. I'm not saying that can't work, that there are these norms,
for many generations.
But then it's a very static thing. And I think nowadays that we're looking more for the thing which is where we actively grow with each other. We want to be with somebody who we learn something from. We have something to offer them, they have something to offer us, and we learn. And what I say to a lot of young people, because they are meeting people in different contexts and who are from different cultures and different experiences, to say, zoom in and focus on the things that you share together, and really do a lot of that in the first couple of years, so that becomes strong as your core sort of way of living in your marriage that you want to build on. Because when hard times come, if you haven't invested in that, then it's easy to walk away. But if you've really invested and you really value and appreciate each other's time with each other, then the things that you differ on and the other stuff become secondary. And then when you have let's say, an argument about something or another, and you're really angry with each other, you have all those shared things that you enjoyed and value about each other to draw back on, right? And then whatever anger you felt, you can work through, because you say, yeah, they did this. Okay, that was all right. And yeah, we get on with each other and that. We like watching the same. We like, so you sort of go back and you sort of work out in yourself, what do you actually value about this person? And is it worth that argument? And can we let's try and work it out.
Yeah.
Right. So I think the ability to negotiate and to understand each other, respect our differences, work at things that we share. This is in a sense about love and revolution. It's quite revolutionary to do that, really, because we have to often struggle within ourselves, but in a loving way. Like if your husband, like my husband was super messy and I'm super organized, right? And I had to learn, right? Had to, okay, leave that.
Yeah.
His creativity comes with that messiness. I had to accept it. So, I mean, I mean, so that's really, how do you work these things out, right?
Yeah. So we talked about love and children, but as Muslims, and particularly as different cultures of Muslims within the UK, there seems to me to be a reluctance, because we're talking about love and revolution and how that moves from the private sphere, the family, the couple, the children, the little community, into the public sphere. And it seems to me that from being here for 43 years, that it's taken a while for Muslims to engage publicly in the public sphere. But you've been doing that for 40 years. So what's the secret of encouraging more people, or is it different for the young generation? They are already in the public sphere because of social media.
Well, one of the sort of parts of the anti-racist, anti-discrimination, equalities movements, multiculturalism, has many forms over the years, is that there was a recognition with the riots that happened in the 70s and other factors that British societies institutionally discriminates against people who are different. And at that point, I mean, historically there'd been other people, been the Jews and the Irish and other people, but that was a different time. So where assimilation was much more normal. So what changed with the race riots and the sort of 60s and 70s really, is that you had people coming primarily at that time from the Commonwealth, former colonies, and they were people of colour. So the issue primarily, and they had different cultural practices, right? Or religious or cultural practices. So, and how do you negotiate that in Britain? And what I've been told by many Jewish rabbi friends I have is that because the Jews have a much longer history, and they were forced to assimilate, and many left, and they understood very well that you can't be too openly different.
Yes, it's
with the English.
Difference, yes.
So therefore, their synagogues and their centres were not obvious. So what I think, we were greatly influenced by the civil rights movement, which then contributed towards our development of the anti-racist movement. And it was what multiculturalism did, is that we all have a right to be who we are with our differences and celebrate it, right? And that meant there was a lot of investment in understanding what these differences were. But then what happened eventually is, because it becomes about who gets funded, who doesn't get funded, who's represented, there was a lot of politics eventually involved. And it didn't really go eventually in the way that it needed to go. So for Muslims, initially, because color was the issue, race, right?
Yeah.
We operated within that framework. So there are many Muslims from the 70s and 80s who were part of that movement for the anti-racist movement. From our experience, when we set up An-Nisa, we recognized, because many of us worked in youth service or homelessness or counselling some way or another, we could see that Muslims were falling through the net. The anti-racist movement wasn't taking on board the Muslim experience, right? Because we had certain, regardless of where you came from as Muslims, there's certain things that come from a religious cultural experience, such as there's likelihood more that women won't be working because they bring up the children and run the household, so there's a single income, and they won't go to the pub, they won't eat pork, they won't do this. So there were differences which couldn't be overcome through the anti-racist movement, and the anti-racist movement didn't recognize it, right? And the anti-racist movement also historically was anti-religion, so it wasn't a conversation you could have. I know, I was part of it at that time. So we then, in our work, we try to do to show that faith, it's not for governments to tell faiths how to be faithful, but you have communities who are different, of different faiths and different experiences. There needs to be some collective national understanding of how this is, and there needs to be understanding of it. So we did a lot of work around that, engaging on the idea of being a faith-based community. For example, I just recently I was involved in a project with a university with South Asian women.
University of Westminster.
Of Pakistani Bangladeshi background, because the research showed that they did okay at university, but they weren't getting the higher grade jobs. So we didn't make religion an issue, right? Because it was a cultural thing. But the women themselves brought it into the conversation, saying that still these young girls in their early 20s were experiencing horrendous Islamophobia that they described, and exclusion because maybe the way they looked or they dressed or something like that. So this is still happening because we haven't addressed the issue, particularly of Islam, Muslims, Islamophobia, and how that manifests itself in institution, in the public sphere, media and all that. There hasn't been any robust addressing of that, right? And why I went away from Muslims and stuff, because I just found it very difficult that we were never going on the right agenda. We were constantly distracted by things that weren't relevant, in my view. So, so therefore, if you look individually in some institutions, they try really hard to integrate understanding of people's differences, including faith, and accommodate it. But nationally, there has been a failure to recognize there's a particular discrimination and how to address it when it manifests itself.
Can I bring in some criticism I have of the multicultural approach? Which I've experienced.
Right.
Which is the fact that, as you said, because the funding and the policies and the thought was very much about let's identify these cultures and celebrate them, it became very static. You had to fit in a box.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, you're Indian or you're Pakistani, you must like this, you must eat this food, and as you said, I remember we had a conversation, I think you've only been to Pakistan a couple of times. Your Urdu is quite basic.
I'm a bad Pakistani, I'm afraid.
But that's the thing, is that I found that the multicultural agenda meant that they wanted you to fit into a box.
Yes.
And what we're finding in our truly multicultural society is that people don't fit into these boxes. You may be Bangladeshi, but you have never been to Bangladesh.
Yes.
Maybe your grandparents came, and actually there is very little difference between you and Stacey next door, because you're the same age, you walk to the same school, you play in the same playground. So I have a feeling that, my not feeling, but my view is that we've been let down by the multicultural agenda.
I think so, and even the anti-racist movement, because the anti-racist movement also became static.
Yes.
The multiculturalism movement became static. Everything became static. There are lots of reasons possibly you can give as an explanation of it, but they did become static, and they imploded internally, right? It's divide and rule and all that kind of stuff. And the thing that I always say to people is that if you are white English, let's say, there are many windows through which to look at you. We don't imagine there's only one kind of white English person.
Yes.
Okay. But what has happened through diversity in its various formats, like you just said, that to make things easy, they just want a whole entire group of people to be looked through one window.
Yes.
For example, if you see a white grooming gang, right?
Yeah.
You don't think all white men are pedophiles or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
You see a brown Pakistani pedophile grooming gang, you blame the entire community. It's the same with
and the religion.
It's the same with 9/11, 7/7, and Prevent. What it did, it made us in all suspect communities.
Yes.
So the entire community is to blame for what happened internationally or wherever, right?
Yeah.
So and that's been the failing of it. And that's why then Muslims get angry, and that's why then young people get angry. They're saying, well, you're not listening to what we're trying to say. You're denying us a voice, right? And you're denying us our experience, or you're denying that we're not culpable, we're not to blame for this, right? We don't actually agree with this. We would stand with you, but if you're going to blame us for everything, we can't stand with you, right? And so it's very controversial in how all of this went. And I think we're in a sort of stalemate situation with it at the moment. I think all communities, not just Muslim communities,
absolutely.
all communities are feeling dissatisfied with the way that they engage and the way that they're understood, because all other communities, also minority communities, are also seen through a single prism. As we saw in the Notting Hill Carnival recently, is that the way that it was reported and the way Glastonbury or other festivals are reported are completely different. Right? So therefore, this is not just for us as Muslim communities, so we shouldn't be excessively paranoid about it. Of course we're affected by it, but we are not alone in the system to feel alienated for whatever reason. The question is, of course, we can cry victims forever. What do we do about it? We have to do some homework. If we want to engage with government, local authorities, or any other institution, what are we saying? Do we go as lone players and only I matter and what my opinion is? Or are we going to go and do a little bit of work and say, okay, let's say in London, let's say where I live in Brent, where we have most probably every kind of Muslim here. Do I know enough about any of them to go and say the Muslim community of Brent? Do I hear?
It's that word community. Sometimes I like. Do you think we all go back home to the same big house?
No, yeah. So certainly,
so in a way, we talk about the community, but at the same time, it's a difficult.
Yes.
It's quite elusive.
Well, for us as Muslims, I think we're fixated by this concept of ummah, which I really question at the moment. I question that because. Ummah requires, like the phrase that we were discussing earlier.
Ummah is nations. People, ummah is the nation.
Ummah is an active term. That to be an ummah requires this two-way relationship. You have to work at it. You have to have some alignment to say, I'm with you.
But there's an emotional side to it. There is a sense of, I know what you're talking about, but there's a sense of we carry the ummah and that every Muslim becomes a kin. But it actually on the practical levels, even
but there's a conflict with it because the people who are then aligning with the idea of ummah are excluding those Muslims who don't align with it. So therefore, if we're an ummah and we're inclusive of all our variations, we have to be inclusive of all of it, right? So we have to relook a lot of these things and say, what do we mean by this today, right? And I don't personally think that we are an ummah in that sense, because we don't know each other. We really, at a basic level, we don't know each other. We know some things maybe on a political scale. We all get affected by Palestine. We all get affected by some of the other wars that we understand are happening, and all that kind of stuff. And we, get hurt by maybe some things that are similar, or get joy by some things. But it doesn't make us necessarily an ummah. There's something there that's not actually really being activated effectively, because at the end of the day we all go home and we're just ourselves.
Okay, so how do we activate it?
I think it can only come within yourself. If you, like, let's say somebody of a Pakistani background, if you feel you're better in everything that you do and the way you understand things culturally, religiously, than somebody from another Muslim culture, then you have a superiority complex, which I don't feel is right.
Yeah.
And I say that the other way around, if you're Arab or whoever you are, right? So therefore you have to look at yourself. You can appreciate and value your tradition that you come from, but you have to know that other people feel the same about theirs. And how can we, like, say you're an Arab and I follow you and I talk to you and I know you personally, so I know what that means for you a little bit, which some of it is similar to me and some of it is different, because you obviously have a different history, right? It's a different history to mine. We have connections, but your region and my region geography has different things.
But even our experience in Britain is different. I'm not the child of immigrants as such, and that I came as an adult.
Yes.
And I never even thought of myself as an immigrant. I came because I was my ex-husband, and I was married to somebody who's British.
Yes.
And that's why I came to live here.
Yeah.
So, even our experience is different. And sometimes being called, the Muslim women, again, it puts us all in this one big, meant to be homogenous, and it isn't. It really isn't.
It's easy to do, but we have to really remind ourselves that it's not so easy. It's much more complex, and be open and receptive. Because, I mean, I mix in very diverse Muslim cultures, and it's not for me to tell others how they should be, and I enjoy it, and I enjoy the cultural differences and the similarities, and but this is what younger people are doing more and doing better.
They're doing much better than us.
Yeah, because that's what they're used to.
It's like natural habitat.
Yeah, it's natural for them, because wherever they socialize, wherever they go, they'll meet people who are different, and they'll meet Muslims who are different, right? And even they are more and more connected to sort of a Western idea of being, because that's normal for them. And what I say, maybe controversially now to many people, they don't like it, say, look, we have to recognize we're all Westerners now, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We might have issues with the Western ideas of politics or something, but we are, those of us who live in the West, we're geographically located here. Even in the Muslim world,
and we've absorbed some of the values.
Yeah,
and
we absorb what is good, we engage with it.
Yeah.
And across the planet, whether you're in the West or the East, people aspire to a Western education, Western way of being, Western economic systems, even political system. We consume the literature, the media and everything. So, and we are more that than we are from our cultures of origin. And I don't think that needs to be a contradiction with each other. We have to learn how to be in both places if we want to be in both places, right? If both places are important to us, how can we do that? But we are Westerners now. We think more in a Western paradigm than we think in what is a historically Islamic paradigm. Because the history, our 1400-year history, was relevant for those times, right?
And it differed between different cultures, and
we have to be relevant
geographies
for our time, and we haven't really done that very well. And then when we try to be relevant in our time, we sort of often, I think what happens is that we, like, some of the sort of buildings and communities that are, structures that are being evolved, oh my God, that's so, and it's an antithesis to sort of human way of being and living with each other. So, for example, in many big urban places in the Muslim world, there's so many high-rise flats, whereas before, I noticed this when I went to Jordan. It's at the time I went, which was maybe it's about 15 years ago, it wasn't, maybe it's much more built up now, I don't know, but the motorway runs right through the center of the city, right? And it's a sort of complex one-way system. So if you miss something, you have to go around for half an hour or an hour.
I've experienced these roads a lot in the Arab
But
world,
when you look at the place, and I felt this in Cairo as well, it just cuts through, is that in the past, people would have just walked across their families, they would have met each other. But now to meet your families, you have to take 1 hour diversion where it would have taken you 10 minutes to get across the road to see each other. So the way we're building is separating us from the communities that we knew. We are more and more not living in extended family housing where there's lots of people. We're living in nuclear apartments. And so while to live in the way we did traditionally, it's not necessarily Islamic, but it's what people in the past understood about sharing things together, living together, intergenerational stuff.
And this impacts a lot of people,
Yeah.
not just Muslims or people from different cultures, from global cultures.
Yeah, exactly.
Cultures.
So it's not exclusively the way we do things, but we did it in a certain way. And we are used to our, parent generations were used to that. I have a memory of that to some extent, but the younger generation don't, right? They are living in a different environment. Okay.
And social media becomes their community.
Exactly. But it doesn't mean to also say that living in lots and lots of high-rise blocks that you can't also create it.
Yes.
So the question is that you've taken away something which I feel is really important for our humanity. You've replaced it with something which removes you from that, but you can maybe adjust it a little bit, create a community space, introduce people to each other of different generation. You don't have to be blood relatives necessarily to be supportive to each other and look after children. There's other ways that you can do it.
But you also don't have to be the same faith.
No. But then to appreciate each other's who are different faces, you have to engage and you have to hear what people are saying.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And I've known over the years for myself doing interfaith is that you don't lose your faith by learning what other people actually say about their faith. And what I really don't like actually is when, I know we do it as Muslims and I'm sure others do it, is that we interpret other people's faith for them.
Yeah.
Right? So let people have their way of understanding their faith, the way that they want to be with it.
Yeah.
It's none of our business, right? We just have to do it for ourselves. So, and that's respectful. That's, it's the most patronizing thing when you're telling a Christian, for example, that's not how Jesus was. Like, Jesus,
But we do it to each other in terms of Islam as well.
It's true.
Let's look forward now and back to love and revolution.
Yeah.
Can you tell me exactly? It says, I can read Ashaq, which means...
No, don't ask me to read the original.
Although it's Urdu, it's written with Arabic script. So
I think it's Urdu saying in Persian. That's what Abdul Rahman told me.
Because
I think something like that.
is revolution.
Yes.
Ashaq is love, but there's a sentence underneath.
Yeah.
And there's no difference.
Yeah.
Between revolution...
Yeah.
I suppose political in this case,
yes.
and love, there is no difference. So going forward, and I mean, how can we manifest this love and revolution in our societies now?
Yeah.
How should we do it? As, people out in the public, we are doing this is in the public. And, a few years back, people might have criticized two Muslim women sitting together.
Yes, true, they would have done.
Until now, there's this, why do you want to be in the public? And it's just important.
Yes.
So, this is also an act of love.
Yes.
And hopefully a revolution.
Yeah. And it's really great doing it with you, Rania, actually. And it's certainly women of our age group.
Absolutely.
We'll show the youngsters a few things. Yes.
Never mind our age group, we're doing okay.
I didn't say what the age group was.
I don't mind. They can work it out. You gave it away earlier, Humera. You gave it away earlier.
Okay. I think it's not just a Muslim issue. I think it's a human issue. We have to sort of go back to what core principles are.
Yeah.
And I think that certainly in this age of excessive information, we are blinded by a lot of misinformation. And I think we have to step away from misinformation.
How do we know the difference?
Well, we have to work at it. You don't know.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, it's like, let's say even religion, is one thing I've realized more recently is when you read a lot of books, it's the opinion of those people who are interpreting certain books or certain things.
Yeah.
That's fine, as long as you know that's what it is.
Yeah.
But what is it in the origin? What was there before? And I think one of the problems, which I know certain scholars I've spoken to over the years have said, one of the problems we have as Muslims with religion is that we've lost our awareness of our methodology. We don't know how Islam works. So therefore, there's been this emphasis on fiqh and Sharia rulings that you think that religion started with law rather than started with values and morals and everything.
The principle, always go back to the principle.
So therefore, I think there's
you
been...
You mentioned justice earlier and we didn't talk a little bit. So let's go to justice because that's what I needed to unpack this because I'm very to me, I think it's absolutely fundamental Islamic principle. It
Yeah.
has to be built on justice, but people don't seem to understand it. So with Love and Revolution, where does justice sit?
I think being aware of an injustice
Yeah.
doesn't mean that you can, being aware of it in yourself, and then even if you're aware of it yourself, I suppose you have to challenge yourself to say, am I actually responding or reacting or understanding things correctly?
Yeah.
I might be biased, or I might be just very emotional about it. It might be personal for me, but it's, we have to question our motivation constantly to really see, and then be open to say that that's what I thought then. I got more information and that's what I've understood now. But I suppose there are some key things that we consider to be unjust as humanity, that we see children being murdered is not something acceptable. Rape is not acceptable. There's other things that we collectively as human beings see as not acceptable.
Well, people talk about climate injustice. Not even like with climate, there's an injustice. Water.
Yes, of course.
The floods recently in Pakistan and the damage, not just in terms of life lost, but to people's lives and livelihoods.
But some of that is already too late.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That we have sort of gone blindfolded into this situation that we find ourselves, whatever the reasons are, they're complex.
Yeah.
The question is, what do you and I as ordinary people and other people, what can we do? Ordinary people who want to do. I think one thing you can do is you can get your own head straight, right? And
so difficult.
Yeah, it is difficult. I mean, I'm quite an emotional person. I react, and I'm constantly pulling myself from emotional reactions to things, right? It's not an easy thing, right? Because, and I've said it on Facebook a few times, that when I know from myself, when you react emotionally, you can also be irrational, right? So therefore, how do we sort of hold feeling but act rationally about it, right? And how do we do? And I think at the end, there's many ways that you can enact it to challenge injustice and be just. And of course, at a personal level, you can only be just yourself. You can only be fair. And you have to work that out. And same sometimes, like I give the example that sometimes if I told my kids off wrongly when they were younger, the hardest thing to do as a parent is admit that you're wrong. Yes. Right. So, I'd have to grit my teeth and say, I actually told them off incorrectly. I'd have to apologize. Yes. Look, I'm really sorry. Right. And that's really hard to do.
Never did.
Of course. They didn't. So, that's a really tough thing to do when you recognize that you were wrong in a situation. Okay. So I think that's the starter. To understand how things actually work is another thing. Society is one thing, politics is another. There's any number of things to understand how they work, which is not easy. And then, of course, how religion works. Like I said, many scholars I know say themselves, we don't understand the methodology of how it works. And we start at a certain point and think that's that part of the elephant that is everything, rather than looking at the whole thing. So I think we need to do that more and more. And at a very basic level, I think we just have to, which I try to do in my home, particularly with young people, is just create a space to exhale, right? Because people are so pent up, they don't know where to go, don't know what to do. They just need a place to exhale so that what they actually need to do, they have a chance to think about it. Those who want to go into politics, I mean, I think what we've seen in recent years, there is a type of Muslim emerging who's far more informed on politics, and they know how to debate and discuss and even offer political analysis, which is new, really, right? It's not so subjective only within our own issues. They're looking at the broader thing. People like human rights lawyers, they're much more informed and articulate.
We have the mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, is from the community, the Muslim immigrant community. And Zohran Mamdani
Yes,
now,
yeah, exactly.
standing for
Yeah.
mayor of New York. So
So
there are some good examples.
so therefore, that's what I said earlier.
Not that we agree with all the policies,
No.
we're just talking about people. That's the worry of falling into identity politics
Yes.
as well. The idea that, all Muslims are supporting
Yeah.
Sadiq Khan, not necessarily, or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So, but at least we have an example of people who've maneuvered around the system. And maybe, especially with Zohran Mamdani, judging by what he's saying, he really stands on some quite radical policies.
Yeah.
That regardless of religion,
and Muslims are allowed to have a range of different views,
absolutely,
according to what they feel and what they're doing. We could only judge them by their sense of their own personal morality, the values that they present. And again, we can just have a view.
Yeah,
we don't have to condemn them to hellfire for anything that they do. That's just their view. And I think that we're also, as well as our cultural family ideas, we're still rooted in our psychology with our tribal mentality, that you give allegiance to the head of your tribe and you accept whatever they say and this, that, and the other. That's gone, long gone, right? But there's still a vestige of that left.
But not to the young. I don't know. I think the young people are maybe showing us the way.
Yeah, I think so.
It
will change. Yes, I think so. And I'm interested to see where they go with it.
Yeah.
Right. It's our responsibility as adults or people who have experience in other things to do what we do.
Yeah.
So that they are there, that we can support them.
Yeah.
Right. So and I think that the Muslim community needs major change. Right. It really needs a shake up, because also some of the things I sort of feel also controversially, maybe, that if you look at the traditional centers of Muslim civilization, they've all been destroyed, right? Where we look back at our history and our great crafts and arts and civilizational stuff, they've been destroyed, but does that mean Islam is dead, right? Hopefully, inshallah, they emerge into something new and better, but it's not going to be the same. It took 1400 years for cultures and ways of life and language and the way we do things to evolve. When that's been destroyed for whatever reason, through wars usually and everything, right? It's not going to be the same, because there's been a schism that's been created. So what's new going to evolve? Like, you're from Lebanon,
yes,
right? Lebanon has had so much happen to it.
Yes.
How will it emerge into it has to find a new way of being.
And it's the new generation that's going to have to do it.
And they love, of course, Lebanese are the most patriotic people I know, right? But
the cedar tree.
But it's not going to be the same as it was before.
It can't be, because
like your parents' generation. It's not going to be like that.
No. Although the thing is, what I find is a lot of people our age are so nostalgic to something that I think they see with rosy-colored glasses, and I'm like, are you sure it was that good? And they always say, La Belle Époque, the good time. This was and I'm like, you're not seeing the cracks that were there, because if there hadn't been cracks, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah, exactly.
We wouldn't have had 18 years of civil war.
Exactly.
So what is it? Do we have anything to offer the young generation, or are we past it now? I mean, I know we're doing this, but I don't know how, but if the young people are watching us, what can we say to them? Is there something we can still offer them? Is there still something that we can do, given our experiences, our knowledge, our wisdom, I hope?
I really don't know. That's a difficult question.
With age comes wisdom, I hope. Still waiting.
I think like I said earlier, I think we have to be there for them and hear them. And not when they come and speak to us, tell them what they should think, right? Just to hear, give them space.
I liked about the space to exhale. I like that.
And I think a lot of young people feel like our generation felt, we just get criticized all the time by the elders. And I think we have to learn to enable and facilitate, like I said, their growth. And sometimes they just want to, come and, chill and talk to older people. Right? And enjoy that. I mean, like what I try to do with, like I said, with my kids' friends, welcome them and just have a space for them. That's the least I can do. I'm not doing anything else, which is revolutionary in that sense. But maybe that's revolutionary. maybe it's revolutionary to just
Exactly.
create that kind of space for them. And I don't know what the future holds. I really don't know. I'm not just saying it. But if you
No crystal ball around.
no,
Yeah.
nothing. But if you create that space, maybe we'll see what grows from that.
Yeah.
You know, and there's been so much trauma in the Muslim world for such a long time. You know, internally we just.
But I feel there's
Find it
been
difficult.
trauma external, but there's some self-imposed trauma. I mean, one of the issues has been, and I know we don't have time and space for it. Maybe one day we'll do a whole podcast on Muslim women.
Yeah.
And what it is to be a Muslim woman. I think we need to do.
Yes.
Let's book a time for that, because let's just take hijab, which is completely a modern concept.
Yes.
And the word in Islam does not mean what we
Yes.
take it to mean now.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
trying to explain this to people is revolutionary in itself. And having worn the hijab for 39 years and having chosen now not to wear hijab, there has been a lot of part of it has been because to challenge that concept, particularly in Britain, of the Muslim woman as the one with hijab.
Yes. Yes.
So that, you know, you have to keep saying, yeah, I'm Muslim, and people will take a
Yeah.
double take if they haven't known you before. So I think, you know, part of that trauma is that self-inflicted
Yes.
one to me about, back to the word inclusion
Yes.
and love and revolution. To what extent are we practicing within our own
Yeah.
ummah?
We're not really.
Yeah.
No, we're not really. That's
Yeah.
the fact. And of course, the issue of women is just another whole
Yeah, we'll have to do a
minefield.
whole program, on, well, several probably, series.
Yeah, yeah. It's,
We need to
yeah,
do a
so I won't even
series on
start
that.
on that.
No,
That's a whole other subject.
Yeah, no.
I think, but women are. All I will say is that women are doing it. They're just getting on with
they
it,
are,
right?
yeah.
So we'll see what emerges from that. And I can only say for myself, I like so many people had all those insecurities about being a woman, being a Muslim woman in particular, and all our cultural things throughout the years. And that's the question I always had, you know, about, you know, why this, why that, and how I saw myself. And because however much you think that you've grown and you've understood, you know, you're confident, then you hear a lecture, or you read a book which says something, you know, puts you down again as women.
Yeah.
So, but I think that I do feel now for myself, I feel I don't have those insecurities in my womanhood
Yes.
and who I am, which I did have before. I have questions.
Yeah.
I have loads of questions, which I feel don't make sense to me. But for myself as a woman, I don't feel inferior, or I don't feel, you know, insecure about it. It's a shame it's taken that long. You know, I hope younger
Tell me
generation.
about it.
I hope a younger generation
Doesn't
get
take
there
as long as
quicker.
it took us. Yeah.
So, and I think some are doing quite well with that. But and the thing I also think about women is, we're still waiting for a savior. We're still waiting for a knight in shining armor to come and save us, I think. And I think,
no, not.
well, maybe we might not be, but I
Yeah,
think generally, but I think women
Yeah.
have to maybe recognize that maybe we are the saviors. Maybe
Absolutely.
we are the ones who are going to stick our necks out and change society. Maybe we are the game changers. And that comes with a price. Right? Maybe you won't find that husband that you feel you need, who values and respects you. Maybe it means that you have to sacrifice some things. If you really want to create that kind of change, it has repercussions for you. Nothing meaningful comes without sacrifice.
Yeah.
So I think that I really believe you can't have it all,
Yes.
right? Maybe one or two do, but generally you can't have it
Yeah.
all, right? And the question I've asked a lot of women recently is that if we find that space within ourselves as Muslims where we have confidence, then we have a responsibility. We can no longer play a victim.
Yes.
Women are still victims, I'm not denying that. But once you as an individual have understood it for yourself, you can't play the victim card any longer. You have to be part of the solution. You can no longer be part of the problem.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So women have to decide where they are on that. Do they want to continue with the victim mentality, or do they want to say, no, you know, I've understood this and this is the sort of change we need. I'm going to contribute this. This is what I'm
Yeah.
doing. And
Yeah.
there's a price to pay for it.
So love and revolution, okay, women, you've heard it here. We will do a series of podcasts on women and love and revolution. So as I want to thank you so much, Humera. It's been just so lovely. I could talk to you for hours.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity for therapy.
I'm not sure about therapy, but this was, I just loved talking to you, and I think there's so much there. Hopefully people will take away. But before we finally say goodbye, recommendations, but mostly, I mean, maybe to women our age or to young people generally, of a book you think, you know, I know there's so many books we all love and cherish, but maybe one book you think, or maybe one author you think people should go and, you know, it'll encourage them a bit more in terms of that.
Well, I've not really read so many modern books.
Yeah,
right?
That's fine. It doesn't have to be modern. It can be ancient.
Yeah. And I have not read too much Muslim cultural books even, right? But the books that I've really influenced me was the book I did at A-level actually, was D.H. Lawrence's The Rainbow. And it's a really, it's a really interesting book because it talks about these 3 generations of the Brandon women living in Nottingham at the time, starting at sort of mid-Victorian period up to the sort of early 1900s. And what it shows is that, and it's influenced, influenced me a lot over the years, even now, because it shows how the aspirations of the traditional, the first generation of the woman, you know, was, nothing was expected of her, she sacrificed everything. Then the changes in the generation, how the sacrifice of the first generation, which she didn't want her next generation, and then it goes on like that. And the third generation is a little bit all over the place kind of thing. But it's a really sort of interesting transitional story of how women, what they gift, what they leave behind, even though they may appear to be
the legacy,
to be disempowered and not, you know, very even educated or anything, but there's something, a footprint that they leave behind into the generations. And I really enjoyed that book because I think that's what we do as women. And I often, let's say, think of my mother, for example, who was not, I mean, she wasn't uneducated, but she didn't have a sort of professional life, or she, you know, her life was with her family. But what she has actually contributed to generations has been amazing. We as her daughters have taken that little bit further. And where do our daughters go with that? Absolutely. So therefore, these are things that you won't find necessarily in academic journals or in TV programs or everything. But these are things that people witness and experience within themselves. And they are the sort of subliminal reality of our lives.
Oh, that's lovely. And that kind of sets the homework for our next podcast on women.
Yes.
And that goes back to love and revolution.
Yes,
Thank
of
you
course.
so much.
Thank you, Rania.